Welcome back. Season 5 of the Stanley Street Social Podcast presented by the TAC. The road belongs to us all. It's good to be back at the back end of the Aussie summer with Max Gawn. Welcome, Max.
Thanks, Alex. I think this is what the fans have been asking for. No Campbell and more Keno and me. So
yeah. Well,
yeah,
after the season 4 review, that's kind of what the board came up with. And also Sunday when we were supposed to record clash with Cambo's tea time down at Royal Hobart. So he had to give it a miss. So
yep.
I brought in the first reserve in Matt Keenan after a big summer of commentating, half summer of commentating. Got through the road nationals unscathed and then came unstuck with a little COVID.
DNF with 2 stages to go. It was a close contact with Anna Mears. Luckily, I was all negative, but I've been juggling the commentary, Alex. I've been commentating tennis and cycling. And doing the tennis, I did the first week in Melbourne, the ATP and the WTA event. And then I did the first 5 days of the Australian Open. And, it was how much I love tennis, but it was my first time commentating tennis. Obviously, I was a little bit nervous going in initially. And people have said to me, how hard is it? Well, there's 2 people on court instead of 186 in a bike race. You don't talk when the ball's in play. And then there's 25 seconds between points to talk. And you've got an expert who wants to analyze the point. Fantastic. It's the best value for money I've had on dollars per words ever. It was great.
Who were you in the box with?
My first one was with Liz Smiley, who, from those of my generation, she was an absolute superstar of the 1980s. She had the famous chewing gum ad with Extra. She was great to commentate with. She was like the mum of the commentary group. And then I commentated for a few matches with Simon Ray, who was Nick Kyrgios's coach when Kyrgios made the quarterfinals at Wimbledon in about 2014. And for a few matches, he commentated holding a racket and he was playing shots to help him communicate what he was trying to get across. Roger Rashid was another one, an American by the name of Jill Kravis I commentated with. Brad Stein, who was Jim Courier's coach for quite a while, and he's mad keen on cycling. And he discovered that I came from a cycling background. And the second match he and I commentated on, at every change of ends, he was asking me questions about cycling. It was fascinating. It was hilarious. It was great. And then, he was like, oh, I ride in a Monda. What do you ride? I said, I ride in a Monda. Is yours an SLR? I bet yours is an SLR. Mine's not an SLR. Is yours an SLR? He was just hilarious, this guy. He was great. Is
this the beginning of the diversification of Keno's commentary expertise? Will we see maybe round 1 next year commentating on the Ds?
No, you won't see me commentating on the football.
But tennis?
Oh, I'd love to keep doing it. Depends on whether it clashes or not next year with the cycling, when hopefully we're not impacted by COVID and those international restrictions. But it was fun. It was really good fun to do.
How do you become like a part of the inner sanctum of the tennis commentary world?
Well, I'd pestered them for 4 years, and then that's step number 1, Max. I was a pest for about 4 years, and actually this year I'd given up. And I figured, I've sent them show reels. I've called them. I've gone in to meet with them. I've gone to visit them as many times as I can. I've put myself underneath their nose. And then this year I didn't bother. I thought, well, they don't want me. And then I got a call a couple of weeks before Christmas. I had a spot open up and they gave me an opportunity. So obviously I jumped at it.
So the real message in that is to give up. Isn't it?
Don't try too hard.
I love that, Max.
How's pre-season coming along, Max?
It's going well. It's been a little bit of a grind this year because of the heat. We've had sort of 2 weeks of over 30 degree every single training session. So it's getting us. But I was just telling you guys off air before, it is a little bit of a different feel doing a pre-season, knowing that you're at the top end currently. Obviously, we all start even round 1. And if we're the same team we were last year, we'll get beat. So we've got to improve. But it is a little bit of a different feel knowing that what you dished up last year and what you did in pre-season last year does work. It makes running laps a whole lot more easier.
Sure.
So it's like a pretty similar schedule?
Pretty similar schedule. No camps this year, although some teams have managed to get away for a camp, but we've had no camp. With the COVID climate, and we got a shorter pre-season being the premiers. You sort of come back a little bit later So we're just down at Casey Fields, just plugging away. We have a North Melbourne practice match Feb 24, which means preseason ends in a week or two, which I'm really excited for.
And confidence-wise, pressure-wise, like how's the feeling compared to previous years?
Going on that initial point that we have to improve. So we're all out there trying our best to make sure we get the most out of ourselves. Because if we are the same demons of 2021, no doubt teams have worked that out and we'll get beat. So it's a marvel when you look at Hawthorn and Richmond going on 3-peats and 4-peats, how good and how amazing that is. So that's something we're striving to do, and hopefully with a little bit of expectation on us this year, rather than last year, we're coming from 9th this year. We're trying to go back to back. So there's a little bit more expectation, and pretty much, I mean, you two would agree, if we don't win it this year, it's almost seen as a fail. So you got to do the only spot we can come is first.
Yeah, I don't know if it's seen as a fail, but I get what you're saying. But it also confirms the old cliche, Max, in sport, that it's hard to get to the top. It's even harder to stay at the top.
Yeah, and I thought that this year at about round 9. We were 9-0, and I remember taking stock on what we've done in the first third of the season. I couldn't believe it's just a third of the way through, and that we could still miss finals, and like pretty much everything we've done really means nothing apart from sitting in a nice position on the ladder. So it's amazing how hard the season is to stay on top, and then obviously the season that comes after it, the 4 weeks of finals, you got to perform in that as well.
Yeah, it's huge.
So teams will be able to, opposing teams will be able to pick you apart based off what you did in the finals.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say, and that would be me for the last 12 years. You do watch the finals teams and see what they dish out, and finals is where your real game plan stands up. And we were able to show ours to all 17 teams that were watching. So that seems to be the best way to win the game at the moment. And everyone copies the premiers of the year before. A lot of our game plans come from Richmond. So I'm presuming there'll be a mix of Melbourne and Richmond and a lot of teams next year, but also the sides that come close, like Port Adelaide, play very different to us. And they just had a bit of a lapse in the prelim final against the Doggies. And Doggies could have easily won, and then they play extremely different to us. So there still is a few different ways to skin the cat, but I think a few teams would be looking at us, which puts a bit of expectation and pressure on us, no doubt.
I love this podcast, Alex. We're here to talk about cycling. So far, we've done tennis, we've done football. Yeah. I suggest that with the Winter Olympics underway on Friday, we touch on the moguls.
Yeah, it's a pity, for anyone that isn't a D supporter, because I am a D supporter. So
Alex is asking all these questions purely out of self-interest.
It's a part of it's the real reason I run the podcast, is that I get to talk to the captain once a month. Max, so like one more question on the football stuff. Yep. So is it all technical, or is there a physical part to it? I'm just thinking back to like cycling, like are people analysing what Pog did last year from a tactical perspective, or is it all just horsepower for them?
Well, certainly we have this, the guru in Darren Burgess, who's now moved on. But when all people talk about what's changed in Melbourne in the last 2 or 3 years, Darren Burgess is something that's changed in Melbourne in the last 2 or 3 years. So the physical aspect will definitely be looked into by other clubs, and also now by us, now that we don't have him, how we can sort of copy or emulate what we just did. We do have the next best thing, the guy who worked under Darren Burgess. So he's come in, and to be fair, he's gone bang. I've been running me ass off, which is good. It's almost what you need as premiers, is a guy to come in and go, well, I wasn't here last year, so you're going to do it my way. And we've been training our ass off. So to be fair, a lot of it is what we do out in the field, but I think we set 2021 up at the start of the year in the preseason last year. So there's a lot to do at this time of the year as well. The famous old saying is, we're going to run with 2 of them early on, Keno, but you can't win it in February and January, but you definitely can lose it.
Yeah, and it's easier to maintain form than it is to chase form.
Correct.
Just, when somebody wins Paris-Nice, or they win the Tour Down Under, or they win one of those early season races, and they say, oh, they peaked too soon. You look at Richie's best years or Cadell's best years, Wiggins when he won the Tour de France, Froome when he's won the Tour de France, they've all performed well in February and March. It's easier to maintain form and build it than it is to be behind the 8 ball at the start of the year and try and chase it.
And then there's Pog that just maintains it from January to December.
Like, he's unbelievable, isn't he? What a freak.
I've just seen, I don't know, we'll get into Pog at some point, but I've seen his calendar. He's doing every race. He's just going to do something different this year. He's just going to do every single
race. Yeah. Well, I'm looking for him to lift his game at the Tour de France. Like, last year there was no actual discernible improvement on the previous year. He won 3 stages and 2 jerseys. He didn't win the green jersey. He needs to win the green jersey as well to move a step further up the food chain.
On analysing what other teams are doing, I saw a response from Rowan when he was talking about why he went to Jumbo Visma this year, and it was, well, Ineos are just copying whatever Jumbo Visma are doing, so I joined the party. And there he was at Road Nationals TT, kicking things off for the year. Like you said, Keno, it doesn't get much better than getting wins on the board early, just to take that little bit of early season pressure off.
Yeah, and for a guy like Rowan, who's always going to be under a lot of scrutiny, that's really important, particularly after what happened with the way he departed at Bahrain Merida, as it was then known. So for Rowan, that was really important. I asked him about the moment on the podium at Tokyo when there was Dumoulin, Roglic, and there was Rowan, and they were in the hot seat. And Roglic looked across to him. He said, "Are you joining the team next year?" He goes, "Yeah, I am." It was before any of the announcements had made, and then they all knew as they were going up on the podium, and they were high-fiving, knowing that they had the top 3 from the time trial at the Olympics. But Rowan knows that environment, and they know him. He actually rode with this team in 2011 when it was the Rabobank development team, and he spent just the 1 season there. And he clashed with them a little bit. They clashed with him, but they know what they're getting. They understand Rowan Dennis. And when you create an environment that Rowan Dennis actually is comfortable in, he's one of the best athletes in the world. And another discussion that I had with him over in Adelaide, I spoke about the scrutiny that he does cop. I said, sometimes you probably feel like the world is against you, but is that sometimes self-inflicted as well? He said, yeah, sometimes it is partly my fault. Sometimes it's also a bit of a stacks on the mill. And it is easy to go stacks on the mill. But when that team goes to the Tour de France this year, Rowan Dennis is going to be a key part of that team for either Roglic or Jonas Vingegaard to be able to beat Pogačar. He is going to have a huge season.
How much does it take out of Ineos? They've obviously got some other issues going on at the moment, but to lose
Ineos
Rowan?
They're not winning the Tour. They are not winning the Tour. Max, they're not winning.
No, they're not winning much. I tuned in last night to the Valencia race, and I know it's the first opening day of racing, but Ineos were almost not present. I don't know where they are. I don't know who their leader is. Obviously, Egan has gone down. So Carapaz look like it's all chips in for Carapaz everywhere now. It just seems a little bit disjointed.
Yeah, Carapaz is not winning the Tour. He's not going to be able to go toe-to-toe with he might be able to finish 3rd. It's a long way from 3rd to 1st, and I don't think he can finish 2nd. He's fantastic to watch. He's super entertaining. And Egan Bernal, I really like the comments from Chris Froome. Let's not worry about asking him when he's going to be back racing. Is he going to make a full recovery? Let's just hope that he gets healthy. In the state of what we're hearing about the significance of his injuries, whether he gets back or racing or not at the moment seems secondary. Let's just hope that he gets back and has a healthy life long term. And I think that's the most important focus for Egan Bernal at the moment. I can't see him being back racing at an elite level this year.
There's a pretty key fact in cycling media when a crash does happen. If it's under sort of a 2-month, 3-month layoff, they normally name the recovery straight away. They say, he misses the Tour de France, or he'll be back in a month, back in 2 months. If Egan, it hasn't even been mentioned. So unfortunately, you're thinking the worst.
Yeah, I agree, Max. Yeah, and Chris Froome's in a position to know, because there's some similarities in the injuries for Bernal as what there was for Chris Froome.
And when you go past the fact that Egan went through, like you see some, I think it was one of his quotes on social media where it was like, it was a 95% chance of not even being able to walk or live again. Once you get past that harsh reminder of how savage this sport can be and dangerous this sport can be.
Yeah.
It leaves Ineos in a massive pickle. We were talking about this at the back end of last year, Max. Like Egan maybe can take it to those two, but without him, they've got a gaping hole in their calendar, which is normally their flagship race. And then how are they going to pick that up when they don't have, it doesn't look like Teo's kind of going to get to that point where he's winning the Giro again. And even if he does, he doesn't have Rowan to tow him to the finish line.
Yeah, we love the idea of Ineos bringing 3 leaders and taking it to Rog and Pog. But if one of them can't actually match it with them two, there's no point in bringing 3 leaders. And
That's
at
exactly
the moment,
right.
it looks like Yates, Sivakov, Gegenhardt, they all just seem a little bit just below par. It'd be interesting if they bring all 3 or 4 and they can all fight for third and get a couple of mountain stage wins. But
yeah, I think Sivakov is their best option over the next 2 years. I don't think he's going to be ready this year, but he's their best option over the next 2 years. And just touching on how dangerous the sport is, Amy Peters, she's still in a coma after a horrible train accident over a month ago now. So, and everybody's got their fingers crossed and hoping for all the best for her. And that sounds like a horrible situation and far worse than the position that Egan Bernal finds himself in. And another stark reminder of how dangerous this sport is.
But Ineos have gone and got Viviani, Alex. So you just never know.
Viviani.
You just never know.
Throw back the clock. What? So if you're Dave Brailsford, what are you doing right now? How do you reshape this year, which you would assume 1 month ago was all around Egan Bernal winning the Tour de France?
Yeah, so you're trying to find other races to win. I think you acknowledge that you can't win the Tour de France, so you're looking for another way to define success this year. And it might be that Sivakov targets the Giro or he targets the Vuelta. You aim for one of or Carapaz. He's won the Giro. He can win the Giro or he can win the Vuelta. I don't think he can win the Tour. You aim for one of those. You look for defining success around winning one of the monuments, winning something like Liège with the Carapaz. There's a lot riding on him at the moment. You look for a different way of defining success. And what can Geraint Thomas do? I don't think he can win the Tour again. He can certainly win some of the 1 week races. He can win Paris-Nice. He can win the Dauphiné. He can win some of those events. And you look through to some of their younger guys and what they can build for the future. And Max, as you know from your many years of experience in football, the year that you don't make the finals is built into making the finals the next year. So what do they do this year that sets them up for 2023?
I think it shows a bigger team and a better team if you're able to shift the goalposts when something happens.
Yeah.
For example, if Ben Brown or Tom McDonald goes down, we're not just going to keep playing as if Ben Brown and Tom McDonald are in the team. We're going to shift the game plan to be able to suit what we have. And at the moment, Egan's gone down, so they got to shift from Tour to maybe Tom Pidcock doing some damage in the classics.
Yeah, so that is spot on, Max. You've just taken Dave's job,
and you forget about Tom. You can easily forget about Tom, as like the mountain bike cyclocross guy.
Yeah, so Dave Brailsford from Young County superannuation, Max Gawn is stepping in. That's the way they redefine success this year. What do they do with Tom Pidcock? He is Ineos's answer to the Vans. He's up with Van Aert and Van der Poel, and he can challenge for stage victories in any race he chooses to ride. He can win potentially one of the monuments, and he becomes Ineos excitement machine. So outside of what they became famous for at Team Sky has been really robotic, and they're an exciting team to watch because they're not the favourites. They can take some risks and they can go on the charge in races. And Tom Pidcock gets people excited and makes Ineos actually a crowd favourite rather than the team that most people are going, oh, how can this team get beaten?
And he was always going to ride the classics anyway, but it's shifting the goalpost to take Kwiatkowski, Luke Rowe and Philip Garner to the classics to help him out.
Love it.
I don't mind it at all, Max.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
We may as well keep going on the world tour before we get back to the topic of the podcast, the Australian National Summer. Couple other races, Valencia, and they're racing in the UAE at the moment. Caleb Ewan talking about early season form and getting early wins. Clocked a stage win where his team looked like he delivered him in very good fashion for a team that somewhat struggled to get Caleb Ewan to the line. And then last night he was climbing in Milan-San Remo form. He was flying up that last hill.
Yeah, and the team's been heavily criticised too. There's been a lot of criticism of Lotto Soudal. They're floundering. They don't really have much to get excited about. They're pinning a lot on Caleb Ewan, like we saw at the Tour last year. Once Caleb Ewan was out, it was all with Brent Van Moor and Harry Sweeney to try and get in the breakaways to get them some publicity. Philip Gilbert is clearly past his best, as brilliant as he has been, and Thomas de Gent is past his best as well, even though he's been absolutely brilliant. Those guys can still play a role, but that team is Caleb Ewan. If Caleb Ewan has a nasty crash and is out, that team's in serious trouble. But as long as he's in this sort of form and going the way he's going, he can absolutely win Milan San Remo. He's been second there twice. Both of them, if a few things went his way, he comfortably could have won. He is Lotto Soudal, absolutely. And it's a great start to the season.
We've been quite critical of Lotto Soudal on here. Well, sorry, when I say we, me and Campbell have Alex doesn't attack anyone that he's friendship with. So obviously
that flows to the entire team. So
obviously Caleb and Harry, Alex seems to think he's friends with, so we can't touch Lotto Soudal.
Oh, we're touching him.
Yeah, but on Thomas again, to be fair, I've never seen someone make it as clear as mud that he hasn't got what it takes anymore. His tweets are hilarious, and he's great. Know that he can't keep up with the peloton anymore, but they still pick him.
I love Thomas again. His honesty his stuff on social media is just hilarious.
Yeah,
he is a must follow on social media.
Correct.
So it seems like if Caleb can continue that form which he's in, and it's not that far away now, Milan San Remo, he just needs one guy to get to the top of the hill with him. Just one guy to be able to fix that awkward scenario that Keno you talked about. He's been twice.
Okay, so here's the challenge then for Lotto Soudal. The reason Philip Gilbert joined that team was so as he could complete his set of monuments. The one he's missing is Milan San Remo. The most important guy in that team for Caleb to win Milan San Remo is Philip Gilbert, to get him to the top of the Poggio and protect him. Is Philip Gilbert, the guy who's won the 4 other monuments out of the 5, prepared to lay it down and sacrifice everything for Caleb Ewan?
No. I remember we had this chat with Caleb last year, Alex, and we all take our minds back to Milan San Remo, and Wellens, Degenkolb and Gilbert were all there, but they were all co-leaders. None of them were working together. It was the weirdest situation ever. He needs one of those 3. And to be fair, one of those 3 could all be there in the final climb in Milan San Remo just to help him out.
Yeah. Well, he needs Wellens and Gilbert. Degenkolb's left the team now, which is a good thing for that structure. He's off at DSM. Wellens and Gilbert have to be told, Max. You get told what a role is for you to do on a team. Cycling is a team sport won by an individual. They're part of a team. They're paid by Lotto Soudal. They need to be told the best chance for this team to win is Caleb Ewan. Look after him. Get him over the Poggio and he can win.
Yep. Because he's just, otherwise he's going to get in that same situation where they get to the bottom of the climb, they all prop up. And
Alex, be warned. If they don't do that, Max and I and Campbell are coming on your show and we're teeing off. It's going to be the Lotto Soudal special.
Fair enough. Remco as well, racing Valencia last night, just looking awfully Remco. And giving Quick Step a nice little win after a pretty rocky 6 months with their manager going a bit AWOL, the team changing sponsors. So nice to see Remco back in the limelight for the right reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That was a good stage to watch last night. If any of you guys watched it, interesting to see Vlasov in different colours first, popping into second. But again, I'm hesitant to go at your boys, Alex, but the Mitchelton Jayco team in the baby blue, I just Michael Matthews has had a rough start already with a couple of times where there were suited stages for him earlier on in January and missed. And last night, Damien Housen was the last one left in the group of 40, and he was the first one gone. I know it's early in the season, but the jury's out very early on our boys, Jayco.
Yeah, and they've all been doing altitude. I know Lucas went back to Europe early to prep for this kind of stuff, so you'd expect them to be in some pretty good condition. The other one too, in the stage 1 sprint against Caleb Groenewegen, their new recruit, was I think top 20 maybe.
Nowhere near it.
Nowhere near the. It didn't really sprint. So that's going to be interesting to want to see how that played out. I know we talked about this one a bit last year, Max. He's still feeling Groenewegen, but how does he get to a point where he's back in that mental state where he's willing to put it on the line after all that he would have gone through, coming off the back of that awful crash that he caused and the effect that he had on Jakobsen?
I can already see the issue with the tour with Groenewegen, Matthews, and a couple of young aspiring climbers in the team. It's already got me puzzled.
Yeah. The team needs a serious refresh.
Did you catch Jerry at Road Nationals, Keno?
No, he was on the hill, but I was, doing my thing. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I'm not sure exactly how much influence he has. He employs people and he trusts them to do their job. If he was really unhappy, I'm pretty sure that if he picked up the phone, when you pick up the phone and you see someone's number, if you saw Jerry's number and you worked for the bike exchange team, I reckon you'd pick the phone up pretty quickly. And you'd, depending on whether you thought you were doing a good job or a bad job, you'd either be really, really nervous or really excited to get that call. I think they've got some, they're putting a lot of faith in Simon Yates. Michael Matthews didn't win a race for them last year. Dylan Groenewegen, I think he's a good signing. I think he can win some races, but the way they structure themselves at the Tour de France, I'm fascinated to see the way they do that, because if Groenewegen can get a win in the first week, that might actually release the pressure valve, and then Michael Matthews can maybe win a stage that's got a slight uphill sprint finish or get himself into a bit of a breakaway. But yeah, I'm struggling to see where their big results are going to come from this year.
I saw him at a function post us winning the flag, and all I wanted to do was talk cycling with him. I don't know if he ever thought that I was a cycling fan or whatnot, and he just kept deflecting to either St Kilda's Premiership drought now or Melbourne Storm. He just didn't want to talk cycling at all.
That's interesting.
I just kept on trying to get cycling in the conversation. He kept deflecting. So maybe he's not extremely proud of the team that he's got out there at the moment. I don't know.
Not at the moment. So it reminds me, did you see the welcome to country this is totally digression, because these kids are just concerned that the bike exchange team is their inheritance being evaporated.
Yep.
But the welcome to country before the test at Sydney, it was amazing. So he's got the elder, he's gone through the whole welcome to country, and it's all really formal. He's just letting these little gags drop in every now and then. And at the end of it, he said, where there's a will, there's relatives. And then he picks it up again. He was brilliant. He was just, and all the cricketers are standing there and they're going, hang on a minute. He was fantastic. Anyway, it just reminded me of that when Terry's kids always complain that their inheritance is being spent.
Yeah, that team, it's messy. And from all reports, they've got a since Shane Bannon left as the general manager, they've got a Euro-based and a Euro flavour amongst their management style. So it's gone away from that Aussie culture focus, huge team morale, so kind of putting a preference on Australian riders.
Well, you can't see what the team stands for. Okay, so we know Wolfpack, we know what Quick Step stands for. Alpecin Fenix, we know what they stand for. They've got a cyclocross element to them. They're race winning. They're the underdog. They're dynamic. They've got Mathieu van der Poel. Jumbo Visma, we know that they're innovative. They're going for the Grand Tours. Ineos Grenadiers, they're scientific. We know we can define most teams. We've got a bit of an idea what they stand for. What does Bike Exchange stand for? How do you define them? I don't know.
And that's back to the early days. That was clear. It was like such a strong culture. It was Aussie. It was team focused. It was from the doco we saw. It was anarchy on the inside, but on the outside, they were working together so well. They all were putting it on the line for each other, and it yielded good results from not clear superstars. They had a few real highlights in there, but there was results across the entire team.
It was a Moneyball team.
Now, it's kind of it feels lost.
Israel Startup Nation, it's the superannuation for a lot of riders over the age of 40, 34.
But that's good for Israel that have gone and gone Jakob Fultang just to change things up.
Yes, they've gone to someone that's under 40. Very good. Happy to see them pick up Simon Clark, though, who's riding well.
Astana released a new rap, just to dust that off.
I watched the first 10 seconds and didn't get much further into it, unfortunately.
I made it about 20 seconds in.
Yeah, right.
The uncomfortable.
The Vino show with him in his suit, just standing out the front of his team that he's got back.
Yeah, no good.
Max, if the D's asked you to do a rap, how would you feel about that?
Previous fan engagement stuff when I first got to the club was quite was a lot. If you remember, there's a great vision of Rewald and Justin Kazitsky singing in the change rooms in a St Kilda one. We've got some great Christmas ones where they've asked for us to sing, but that has stopped in the last 5 or 6 years, so that's good. So it seems like football's going away from that and cycling's gone back into it. So I'm glad it's gone out of our sport. But no, to answer your question, Alex, I don't think I'll sing. 2, I don't think I'll rap.
Yeah, I think the best form of fan engagement is actually answering questions before and after races about the actual sport, providing a bit of an insight into what happens before the race, the preparation, bit of insight into training camps. That's more valuable as fan engagement. What you're doing on the training track, the way the race was won or lost, way better than a rap song.
I 100% agree. And the biggest gripe I have with cycling is after the race when I'm buzzing about what just happened in a result, I just want to hear what each team was actually trying to do.
Yeah.
Because it's puzzling, because a lot of teams we look at Movistar and go, is there even a game plan? But there probably is. So I'd love to actually
You reckon?
Yeah, there has to be. There has to be something going on in that Movistar bus. I can't wait for season 3. Is that coming? Is that getting released soon?
It's gonna be on. Yeah, I agree with you, Max. I reckon it should be compulsory that every team needs to issue a statement live within 10 minutes of a stage finish from inside the bus. So that's what we need. And you guys get interviewed coming off the ground. You guys get interviewed going off the ground at half time. That takes us a little bit further into it. There's, you might not like it, the roaming with Brian, but inside the change rooms, that's getting in. And that's where one of the fall downs for cycling is that the teams aren't part of the media rights deal. So maybe they would provide more access if they were part of the media rights deal. And
that's the trump card they have, is we have to.
Yeah. But it's better. You're better served for it.
Yeah.
As a sport, you get paid more as a result.
And it comes back to your point before about how the team's positioned and felt. Dan Jones made that a thing by almost providing the kind of the post-match, pre-match that you're talking about, Max, and took us inside the team. And you actually knew what was going on every stage that they were competing, and on top of that, articulating all the different personalities and how they interacted. And that was, I guess, as close as I've almost felt to a season long following a team, being passionate about a team, and actually wanting to watch cycling for, at the time, Green Edge.
Could you imagine roaming Stanley Street? I can see that happening.
Yeah.
How many more football seasons you got in your, Max?
I'm starting, believe it or not, a 4-year contract currently.
Beauty.
What year number is this?
This is my 13th.
Wow. So your career as a teenager.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool, man.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
What's the average career? It's only be like 2 or 3 years, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's around that 2 or 3 year mark.
Yeah, because your first contract, doesn't your first contract when you get recruited, it has to be 2 years?
Yeah, and rookies get 1. And then a lot of people do tend to get an extra 1, even if they've done nothing in their first 2. So it's in around that 3 mark.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's been a long time. And now 4 years gets me to 17 years. So
how many games have you played?
No, that's the one I'm not as good at.
Because of injury?
Yeah, 160-ish. But I wouldn't change a thing, Keno. I'm very happy with the way I got brought up. I had to do 2 knee recos. I had to sit there and watch Mark Jamar dominate in the ruck and wait for my time and try and beat him to his position.
Yeah,
and that all aids to the person I am now. So I wouldn't change it, but
that's
awesome. Not going to get to 300, unfortunately.
Yeah, fantastic, mate.
If Max and I wanted to go to the Tour, Keno, and do a roaming Stanley Street, like, is it actually possible? Say we were working for SBS. Like, could you actually do it, or would it be that hard to? Yeah,
you could do it.
Work with the.
I reckon the Melbourne members might have a thing to say about it over the next 4 years at the very least. But yeah, you could do it. You can definitely do it.
So is it?
You'd have to negotiate with the teams.
It's getting access to the teams that's the challenge.
Yeah, and this is the issue with the way cycling is structured financially. As Max said before, the reason they get access into the club rooms is because they're obliged to. It's part of the deal. It's part of the TV rights deal. Whereas the teams, they're not cut in on the TV rights deal for the bike races. But if they were, then if I'm the race organizer, I can say, okay, well, we're paying you this much as part of the TV rights or part of the media rights. As a result of that, these rights holders have this access for you to get that cash. And that's going to help us grow this pool and make it even bigger for the next time that we negotiate those deals.
But if I'm MAP and I'm sponsoring a team, I'd rather see my presence in a post-match preference and an early morning breakaway. I dare say. Maybe the early morning breakaway gets a fair bit of coverage for the French locals, but I would love to see them in post matches saying something that's going to get recorded on every news station around Europe.
That stuff, that's the thing, the replay, Max.
Yeah.
That stuff gets replayed, whereas being in the early breakaway doesn't get replayed. That's on once.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got some sort of insight, you've got a sound bite, it gets replayed, it gets sent out on social media, it gets picked up on the news. That's where you get return on investment.
There is a spot for us, I think, over in the tour, Alex. I'm presuming Keno can't mention, but I think Robbie's not there anymore, so it could be me or you, Alex.
It could be. Max, you can come and join me.
Just Keno in the box all day, and me and you rolling around France trying to pick up our post-race interviews.
Correct.
I think there's something in that.
Yeah, definitely. 4 years' time, Max.
Yeah.
Keep the seat warm for you.
Thank you.
Anything else on the world scale before we come back to Australia?
Valverde still winning at 41 years of age.
I thought he was. I swear I read somewhere that he's given it up.
Yeah, he announced his retirement at the end of the season.
Okay, so we're doing a John Farnham.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The bit that amazes,
every race will be Valverde's last race. That's gonna be great.
The bit that amazes me though, like he's still winning. Like he's still got the motivation to do.
That's the key.
The full off season, come back. It's like watching Rafa win his 21st slam. Like I just can't fathom going, you know what, 20 isn't enough. I'm going to work my ass off to get to the top of the sport and win another race or win another slam. It's unbelievable.
The motivation is what is astounding. To maintain that level of discipline for that long, that motivation, that desire to race and keep pushing yourself is exceptional.
I am going to be the devil's advocate here just slightly.
Yeah.
At 41, and I get he's still winning, but he's hurting Mass at the Tour de France, in my opinion. At 41, if I was still playing football and there was a young ruck and they were picking me because of my name and my stature, I think it's a bigger person to get up and leave as well. I'm not sure.
How old was Dustin Fletcher when he retired? 40?
The difference with Dustin Fletcher is he had nothing coming from underneath as well.
Oh, because he played for Essendon.
But the little bit of me says Enric Mas won't win a thing until Valverde's not there.
Okay, so the one thing that Valverde has done this year has said that he's not going to ride the Tour.
Okay, that's good.
So he's going to ride the Giro and he's going to ride the Vuelta. So he is leaving that alone for Enric Mas. And I still don't think Enric's going to win.
Yeah, and Mark Soler and Lopez aren't there. So Enric Mas has a full team. Is that what you're telling me?
Apparently.
Wow.
Let's see who pops up. Let's watch this space.
That'd be a boring season 4. Netflix.
Yeah, that's right. They're not going to make one. Netflix is canned it.
Need to find a new squad.
Yeah.
The Aussie Summer, Max, you tune in. Road Nats, TDU.
Tuned into a little bit, and I must say, just to start off on our Mitchelson Scott wagon, they can't even dominate the Australian summer.
Yeah, they didn't have many cards to play with, not on the men's side. But on the women's side, I thought at the race in Adelaide, Ruby Roseman-Gannon was sensational.
Yeah.
So she came in, stepping up for the first time to World Tour level, huge expectations, and she delivered. From the start of the year, she won Bay Crits, she won the Criterium title. She didn't win the road race at the Nationals. She was clearly outnumbered by a really smart rock salt. She then, she had 2 second places and won a stage at the Santos Festival of Cycling. Then she led out her teammate to win the Criterium there as well. Yep. She is a superstar, ready to burst onto the world stage. So she was a real highlight for me. And she's the best signing that Bike Exchange have made in the last 2 years on either the men's team or the women's team.
All my eyes were on was Jimmy Whelan and Plappy. They seem to be the two that the majority of Australian cycling spectators are really excited about.
Yeah.
Jimmy Whelan was actually at the wedding that I went to.
Was he?
Yeah, the one where everyone got COVID. And luckily enough, not him, because I'm presuming he didn't, because he seems to be in tip-top shape.
Yeah.
I once again tried to talk cycling, didn't want a bar of it. Cyclists don't like talking cycling out of practice.
You come to my place for dinner. It's all good.
But the two of them are incredibly exciting to watch, and I can't wait to see what Plappy does over on the European summer as well.
Well, here's one of the exciting things to happen in Ineos, and that's part of, I think this season is about guys like Platt, Pidcock, the young riders coming through. As for Jimmy Whelan, he was fantastic at the national championships. The silver medal was really good. I was rapt to see him win the Santos Festival of Cycling, though I don't think it's going to be enough for him to get a contract back in the World Tour.
You don't reckon?
No. He needed to be able to stay with Luke Plapp on Wollonga Hill. If he stayed with Luke Plapp on Wollonga Hill, he may hope, but he's 25. And unfortunately, Pogačar has changed the dynamic. I mean, he's still eligible for the under-23 Worlds, and he's won the Tour de France 2 times. Yep. So teams now are looking at the under-19s in the same way they used to look at the under-23s. So unfortunately for Jimmy Whelan, it's going to be tough for him to get back in. He might. What he should do, in addition to whatever racing he's doing with Team Bridge Lane, why not take part in the Zwift Academy? Try and get in there the same way Jay Vine did, because Jay Vine got into Alpecin Phoenix at 25 years of age. Give it another try, every avenue you can. He's absolutely good enough. He was unlucky the last 2 years. But I think if he had stuck with Luke Plapp on Wollonga Hill, that would have spoken more to the World Tour teams than the fact that he won the race overall.
Do they tune in, the big European teams? Do they watch Wollonga?
Oh, 100%. That's how Luke Plapp, his phone at the end of the stage last year, his phone actually blew up. Yep. There were that many World Tour teams trying to contact him. Richie was getting messages from Ineos Grenadiers as he was just gone across the finish line, wanting to see what the deal was with Luke Plapp, how he rode up that hill.
They weren't congratulating Richie at all for his ride. They're like,
who was that kid behind you clapping, going no hands, and everybody else was absolutely on the limit.
From what I've heard, it's like the GCN Pass Max has introduced all of the races to the Euros. So like the Road Nats was on the GCN Pass. You can actually watch a lot more of the racing.
Well, it's actually easier to watch it in Europe than it was in Australia.
Yeah. And so Jimmy was saying after Road Nats, he got a fair few messages because people were actually watching the race.
Yeah.
I think it's almost enough though, because of
I hope it is.
Because of what he did at TDU. So I think the Road Nats, if you watch the race and talking to Andrew Christie Johnson, his team manager afterwards, Jimmy just got way too excited. He's in everything, and it's understandable. He got flicked from his team. He had a massive summer of training with probably in a weird headspace going, oh, geez, I got flicked. I need a new job. I need to do it this year. Got way too excited at Road Nats, did way too much work. And unfortunately for Jimmy, Luke Plapp was able to play the smarter race card. Yeah. But then to win the way that he did at stage 1 at TDU, assuming the Euros are still watching TDU, that was unreal. Like a hard group to get in, made the right split, and then went from the split to win solo. I think that's at least a World Tour conversation card for his agent to take to World Tour teams early in the year.
Who's his agent?
I think he's with Dries.
Okay.
Squadra Management. Yeah,
and Andrew Christie Johnson is the right guy to help him get there. But I think he's good enough, and I think he should be in the World Tour. But I'm not convinced that those two performances are going to get him back in there. I think he's going to need to do more than that this year. And I'm not sure what program Bridge Lane are going to provide him to enable him to do that, just because of the way the dynamics have changed with a whole bunch of guys in their early 20s, like the Pog, like Remco Evenepoel and so on. Those guys at 21, 22 winning big World Tour races, and he's 25.
I guess the role that I find interesting for him is obviously you want to roll in the European races, but like for a bike exchange, if they still want to win the Australian summer, why wouldn't you have a guy like him that can actually be present in the race? Obviously, Durbo did a heap of work. Kamai was there a little bit, but if you've got a guy like that and actually structure your season to like, all right, we know you're not going to be flying in August, but if you're going to get us some race wins in Jan,
right? Okay. So your bike exchange, right? You've got two Aussies that you can sign on the back of what you've seen in the last month. You're going to sign Blake Quick, or you're going to sign James Whelan. I'm signing Blake Quick. He's 21 years of age. Sure, he won the under-23 race as a sprinter around Buninyong, but he's a sprinter around Buninyong. He pantsed everybody in the criterium. He pantsed everybody on stage 2. He's super fast. He's dynamic. I'd be signing Blake Quick. He was the revelation of the summer. He won a junior world title in the Madison with Luke Plapp. He's got the hunger. He has all the elements required to make it in the pro peloton. He's got sharp elbows, which are required for a sprinter. He knows how to look after himself. If I'm choosing between those two guys, out of what I've seen in the last month, I'm choosing Blake Quick.
But to win in the Oz summer, I think Blake Quick's got more upside There's more.
Yeah.
There's more at the
There
other
you go.
end. But
So you're signing him too, then? You agree?
But I'm not. But I'm not signing him because we're here to win the Oz Summer, and I think Jimmy Whelan's got the more level head on him that's going to be able to show up every summer in the right kind of condition that he needs to be able to win, and then do a program to the Giro, and then you know what? That's kind of his year done. But I think Blake Quick, as he's shown at TDU especially, he's got some pretty big upside if he can, take that to the World Tour.
And from a marketing perspective, Max, he's such an easy call. Like, what a name, Blake Quick. I mean, is Quick really his name as a sprinter? Oh, that's just too good to be true.
I'm sensing a little bit of ageism coming from you as well, Keenan. Just picking the young guys in that sport, isn't it?
No, hey, mate, I've just celebrated my 47th birthday. It's what I'm seeing that is happening within the sport.
Yeah.
And I'm even looking at teams on the domestic circuit, ARA, Inform, those teams. They're looking more at the under 19 category now than they are at the under 23 category because of what's happened with guys like Remco and Pogacar, because of them winning so young. They're looking to recruit athletes younger than what they have in the past. And I don't necessarily think that that's correct because everybody has a different timeline. You know, that you would have seen this yourself many times over with players that were stars at 20 and somebody that was on the fringe at 20 that by the time they're both 25, the one that was on the fringe is a better player.
I think teams will get in trouble if they're chasing the Pog and Rog the whole time, though.
Yeah, they will.
Chasing their Tadej Pogacar, waiting for this 22-year-old to come light up their program.
Yep.
You got to be careful not to let the Whelans fall in the gaps because there's a chance that he might be able to add something to the team as well. So I see both point of views.
Yeah. You're making a really good point.
And I do say majority of domestiques and good domestiques are the more experienced riders as well. So Whelan could slip into something like that in the Giro quite easily.
Yeah, and that's what he needs to somehow sell to a team that he can add value to a team without winning races.
Yeah.
And that's where a guy like Brendan Canty fell down, whereas Brendan Canty had the physical talent more so than a number of Aussies that have ended up having an 8-10 year pro career, but he couldn't work out quickly enough how he could add value to the team without winning. He kind of raced the way, the only way I can add value to this team is if I win myself, rather than how do I add value to the team by helping somebody else win. He just, because he came into the sport late, he didn't come through the junior ranks quite understanding the culture of the sport. And to prove your point, Max, and to go against what I've just said, look at Roglic. He didn't ride his first race until he was 21 years of age. And that was a Grand Fondo on a mountain bike wearing an FDJ suit. Like, so yeah, you don't want to let a Jimmy Whelan slip through your fingers, but I think that he's still got the task ahead of him to get back in. And I hope he does.
I think if we look at the World Tour Australians that are competing, other than the top of the top, the guys that win races for us like Caleb and Richie and Michael Matthews, if you look at the guys that have been most successful, it is some of these guys like a Harry Sweeney, like a Luke Durbridge, like a Damien Housen, that really just put all they can on the bike every single time. Just these, like the Australian culture used to be in cycling, just these fighting Aussie spirit. There's definitely room for that with any Aussie. Not saying that this Blake Quick doesn't have it as well, though.
Yeah, no, but Blake Quick has the winning. He has more that I can be a winner. Jimmy Whelan can have a career kind of like Damien Housen, in my view, if he gets given another opportunity.
Yep. I think too, the other big piece, just thinking about what I took from the Aussie summer, was how good the racing was. Even though there was a few pros scattered in there, it was pretty much an NRS field, the majority of the group, and how good the racing was. It comes back to that point that we were talking about before about the TV rights and how cycling structured and the frustrating race program. Like, why isn't there an Australian cycling calendar that puts those kind of races on 4, 5, 6 times a year that we can actually see and consume? Because it's good racing. It's top-notch stuff.
The broadcast is really expensive and no one's prepared to pay for it. The race organizer has to pay for it. There's no TV network that's going to cough up the money even to cover the costs, let alone to actually pay money to get the broadcast. So the person who's putting on the race, they've got to find the sponsors, they've got to cover the cost of the road closures or the police, and they've got to pay for the cost of the actual broadcast. And covering a bike race is a lot more expensive than it is to cover a football match or a tennis game or a basketball game where you can use some fixed cameras and you've got motorbikes out there, you've got links that are having to send images back. It's an expensive sport to cover.
I do agree on the part of how good the Australian summer was to watch. And especially in the last couple of years, I know COVID's cooked it in the last couple of years, but I like the fact that it's Australian teams and lots of Australians, and the internationals aren't coming anymore. I remember the times where Sagan used to come down and just not even ride to 70% of his ability and sort of took the piss out of the Australian summer. Now it's all these guys going hell for leather, trying to make a name for themselves. So I kind of like that, but I think we do miss an international presence as well.
Yeah.
So if it's the Cadell race that normally brought an international presence for that one-day race that's gone missing the last couple of years, if that's the international one, and then TDU, we just stick to these Australian teams just going hell for leather up Wollonga, like that's pretty cool to watch.
Oh, I was reading the quality of the racing has actually been more entertaining than World Tour racing, because maybe because I like seeing the young athletes coming through on that and the National Road Series teams and seeing them try and prove themselves against the half a dozen World Tour Australians that are in the race. But World Tour racing is actually quite predictable because there's so much depth and there's not a big gap between the strongest rider and the weakest rider. The break goes up the road, a few teams get on the front, they control it, they bring them back and they sort it out at the finish. But with the National Road Series races, because there's more disparities between the strongest teams and the weakest teams, there's more vulnerability in the racing. It's less predictable. One of the best moments for me was actually in the women's race on the third stage. And it spoke to the depth of cycling now within Australia, is the break went up the road. Ruby Roseman-Gannon was in it. She had Georgia Baker with her as her teammate. So Ruby was in the leader's jersey. She had Nicole Frayne was in the group as having just recently won the Australian National Road title. And Georgia Howe was there. She'd been fourth in the time trial at the National Championships. They got up the road and they were 30 seconds ahead. 5 years ago, race over. And we're in for a boring day with 4 riders swapping off at the front. But there was 2 NRS teams that missed the move. They got on the front, they closed it down. It was raced back on, and it was a really entertaining day because the quality of the racing, the depth has improved significantly, but there was also enough gaps in the talent for it to be really vulnerable. It was a really good day.
So you reckon we stop paying Peter Sagan his 200K appearance fee to come down to Australian summer and just start investing in these young Australians to put a better spectacle on TV?
The Tour Down Under will return to World Tour.
Yep.
We use the Jayco Herald Sun Tour as that event.
Yep.
We use that one as that event. And we try and get we try and keep maybe 3 or 4 World Tour teams. So as a Bridge Lane, Inform, those teams can say, let's see how we go against a full World Tour team instead of a couple of World Tour riders scattered amongst other teams.
And then after that, for the rest of the year through the NRS, got to find some cash to keep that series going, keep it on TV.
Yeah, and actually have a series that isn't one race this month, 2-month gap, and then another race, and then 2 races, and then a month's gap, and have the series so it is, you can tell the story and have it condensed within a 4, 5, or 6 month period, but have it regular, race every 2 weeks or whatever it may be, so you can have some continuity in telling that story about the series.
And roaming Stanley Street at the end of it.
Roaming Stanley Street. Imagine if Puppy had a full Ineos team down here with him. he would have been no doubt in the result.
Yeah. It may not have been as entertaining.
One last thing, Keno. This sad announcement that Robbie pushed out on his Twitter after the Road Nats.
Yeah.
As I think I'm speaking on Max's behalf too, as Keno and Robbie fans, are we going to see you two commentating together this year?
Well, we commentated together on the Santos Festival of Cycling on Channel 7. And, Robbie and I had an absolute ball commentating together. And Robbie's a friend of mine. I work for SBS and I love working for SBS. But it was interesting watching the tennis with the Ash Barty match. She rated 3.5 million. And then the Nadal match rated 2 million. And the commentators were the same. The key to successful broadcast is actually the athletes. So I picture the broadcast as kind of like a cake. The athletes are the cake, and us as commentators, we're just the icing sugar on the top. You can have a really good cake without any of the icing sugar, but you can't have the icing sugar without the cake. So if we've got Aussies performing really well at the Tour de France, we'll have great numbers in viewers. If we don't have Aussies performing well at the Tour de France, the numbers might be down ever so slightly. And just like any cake, if you put too much icing sugar on it, you ruin the cake. So, I think that the athletes are absolutely the star. And, I love being able to be part of the broadcast, and I'm looking forward to still being part of it in the future.
Geez, he's gone very safe and political on us, Alex.
I
didn't vote
didn't,
one Matthew Keenan.
I didn't expect to get much from that one, but had to put it out there.
What can I say? One of my favourite moments in commentary was with Robbie calling the Matthew Heyman win at Paris-Roubaix. That was fun.
Oh, it doesn't get much better, and I can't imagine the amount of views that video's had of you two climbing up the walls of that commentary box as Heyman went into the velodrome.
And I've still got a sore shoulder from where he punched me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see yourself doing commentary in football when you retire, Max?
I don't necessarily love the sport that I'm in. I love playing it. I like your analogy of the cake and the icing. I feel like footy might have a little bit too much icing on it. There's some strong personalities in football commentary.
Yeah.
That makes it hard to watch at times, and I fall in and out of love of the game. But I love playing it, so it's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I love the media world. I love everything got to do with radio and TV, but I'm not necessarily sure if footy's where I love. But I understand that people only like listening to me because of my football aspect as well. So it's going to be hard to venture out.
But it gives you your football profile gives you the platform to do other stuff as well. You do a bit of stuff on, is it RSN? You do some stuff on there?
Yeah, RSN and Nova. I do some weekly stuff, which I love doing. But again, that's talking about football.
But that can branch into more social commentary as well. I can imagine you on Talkback.
It can, and there's great examples of cross-sport commentary. I mean, Luke Darcy commentated the Olympics, and I doubt Luke Darcy has any idea of any of the Olympic sports until he got the job. Yeah. So I'm sure there's different avenues that open up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's still a little bit away, Keno.
Yeah, we've got another 4 years at least.
Yeah.
How's the wine bar going, Max? Is there a new one popping up on Glenferrie Road soon?
New one, a new headquarters for Stanley Street Social soon, in April, I think, up near Rococo on Glenferrie Road. Beautiful. But the wine bar's going well, the current one, East End Wine Bar. We've done a couple of pods from there. Keno yet to show his face, hopefully soon.
Yeah. You know why?
Yeah.
I haven't been invited.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
With Campbell down in Hobart and his busy golf schedule, I reckon Keno might get a few invites this year.
Yeah. Invite me.
A big thanks to our sponsors. I'll talk about these at the top of the show a little bit, but the TAC back with their that important message that the road belongs to us all. A couple of examples in cycling over the last couple of months of how dangerous the sport is. So you do need to look after yourself out there. MAP, initial podcast sponsors, the lifeblood of this podcast, they're back and they've just released their new 100% collaboration sunglasses and a new partnership that we're kicking off this year with the Ride High Country. Some of the best training you'll get in Victoria. We ran a comp with them last year because they didn't think anyone that started riding on the Boulevard or Beach Road was a real cyclist. So Keno might be able to attest to that, but it is genuine training up there and some of the best riding you can do in Victoria and arguably Australia.
Oh, it's the best. Love it.
Best moment of my cycling career was when Keno passed me up Buffalo. It
was beautiful, wasn't it?
Still a highlight of my career.
Yeah. I stopped breathing for about 30 seconds to pretend I was doing it easy. Then I was 192 beats a minute around the next corner.
Brenson Jones put on a show that day.
Oh, I sat his wheel the whole way and he's a sprinter and only just held on. I think my most common phrase, that whole climb, just drop it by about 5 watts. Thanks, mate.
So what's coming up? We got UAE tour, then a couple of 1 days to start us off in the 1 day season.
Yeah, exactly. Then we're getting into the thick of it.
Not
too far away. Starting the Belgium season.
What
off
starts
to Strada
Brussels?
in Italy.
Brussels starts us. I'm pretty sure.
What was that? I missed that.
What starts us off? Is it Kearney, Brussels, Kearney? I'm pretty sure.
Umloop, Het Nieuwsblad.
Umloop.
Yeah, and the following day is Colonel Brussels Kerner.
And UAE tour is the real first one for the sprinters.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Paris-Nice at the start of March. I love that race.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Max.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, team.
Go Blues.